this one, have a picture drawn. Alright, so for this triangle right here on the bottom, am I missing a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse, okay, is that A, B, or C? C, good. Okay, so that means my two legs can be either A or B, doesn't matter. Alright, so I'll say 9 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. What is 9 squared?
81.
Plus 7 squared?
49.
What is 81 plus 49?
130.
130. So 130 equals C squared, and then how do I get C all by itself? Square root, good. Square root both sides. Alright, remember for these problems though, it's in your best interest to just leave this as the square root of 130. Okay, for now. Alright, so this side right here is the square root of 130. And I'll remind you why that is in just a second. Okay. So if I go look at the picture, this is a rectangle up here. We haven't talked about rectangles yet, but we know that opposite sides are congruent. So that means this side is 9, and this side is also square root of 130. Okay, so you can choose either triangle to work with. Now I've got two sides. I can do Pythagorean theorem again. Okay, for either of these triangles, the dotted line, is it a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So once again, it's my C value. Okay, so I can say 9 squared plus my other leg, square root of 130 squared equals C squared. And there's a very specific reason why we do that. Okay, if you simplify the square root of 130, that's okay as well. You just got to be sure you do the math correctly. All right, we said 9 squared was 81. What happens here, the square root of 130 squared?
They cancel each other out.
What cancels each other out?
The square root and the square.
Good, okay. So the square and the square root cancel each other out. What am I going to bring down here? Just 130, okay? I knew that's what y'all meant. I just wanted y'all to specify a little further. Okay, so square and square root are opposites. They cancel each other out. So that's why I just leave this as is for now. Because when I bring that down, that's just 130. Okay, and I don't have to square 130. I've already squared the leg. The leg was the square root of 130, so I've already squared that. I can keep going. Okay, what is 81 plus 130? 211. And then lastly, square root both sides. I want my answer to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place. So the square root of 211 rounded to 1 decimal place. What is C approximately? 14.5. Very good. So my dotted line is approximately 14.5. Very good. So with those problems, Pythagorean theorem twice. Leave this. Don't simplify that because you can simply just cancel it out up here. Okay. Yes, Shaq. If you do simplify it, that's okay. Because when you take whatever that is simplified and square that entire thing, you still should get 130. Okay? So if you do simplify it, that's okay. Like, let's see what it is. I don't think that's okay. So if it does simplify, you would still, like, say it reduced to, like, it doesn't, but say it reduced to, like, 4 square root of 5. It definitely doesn't, but let's just say it did. When you square that whole thing, so you would have to be very careful. You would have to take parentheses and square the entire thing. It would still come out as 130 if that reduces that. Okay. Just be extra careful, though. I think it's much easier, though, to see that if you don't reduce it, that automatically cancels. Just bring down the 130. Okay. Good questions. All right, once you're good on that, you may put it away and take out today's notes. All right, before we start today's notes, let's chat very quickly. Okay? The end of the quarter is very quickly approaching. The end of the quarter is next Thursday. That's 17th. You don't have school on the 18th. 18th is teacher work day. Okay? So 17th is the last day of the quarter. I'm not taking anything after the 17th. Okay? By the time you leave this class, I'm not taking anything else from you. Okay? Your grades are great. Okay? My plan is, so we have one more test, obviously. I want to do it on the 15th, but I think it's going to end up on the 16th. Okay? Once I know for sure, I'll let you know. So I think your last test will be the 16th. That means you got the 17th to turn in any makeup work, things like that, okay? Whatever I get by the end of this class, that's it. I'm not taking anything after that because that's just a pain on my end, okay? So if you're not happy with your grade, you've got until the 17th to turn anything in. And after, what time we get out of here? 10:35? After 10:35 on Thursday, I'm not taking anything else. Okay, your grade's your grade at that point.
If we haven't done some of the homework, what's those gonna be?
For half credit, yes. So anything, those progress reports I gave y'all, didn't I give you a progress report? Okay. Remind me at the end of class if you want a progress report, I can give you one. I've given them to some of you. But anything in your grade book on Schoology that's marked as missing or has a 1, you can turn in for half credit. Okay? Anything else though, like if it's an old Delta math, you can't. But if it's like paper homework that you didn't turn in, I'll take it for half credit. Or like missing bell ringers, things like that, I'll take for half credit. I believe everyone in here, almost everyone here is good on tests. Be sure if you're missing a test that you get that done before Thursday because that's really hurting your grade. Okay? And yeah, the end of the quarter is quickly approaching. You gotta have a 60 to pass. Okay? So if your grade's below a 60, we really need to work on getting that up. Okay? Wednesday and Thursday this week I'll have tutoring. And then Wednesday next week I'll have tutoring, and then whenever our test is, I'll have tutoring the day before that. Okay? So you're in charge of your grade at this point. Okay? So hopefully we do really good on this last test. I might also have a bonus opportunity for you. We'll see. Talk more about that tomorrow. Okay? Questions? Alright, then let's start this lesson. Okay, this lesson is lesson 4.3, and it is on special right triangles. Okay? So there are two types of special right triangles that we are going to talk about. Okay? The first one is called a 45, 45, 90. Alright, the names of these special right triangles are just based on the angles. Okay? So clearly I got a right angle because it's a right triangle, and then the other two angles are 45 degrees. Okay, so 45, 45, 90 is what we call it. Alright, in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the legs are the same. Okay, the legs are congruent to each other. And it's labeled on your picture, but it's really hard to see, so I would prefer if you relabeled it along with me. Okay, your legs are going to be the same, and you're just going to label your legs as S. S for side. Okay, it could be X, it could be P, I don't care. But the legs are congruent to each other, and we're just going to call them S. Okay, the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90, we're going to take our side and multiply it by the square root of 2. So your hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 is always your side times the square root of 2. Alright. For a 30, 60, 90, so for the 30, 60, 90, it gets a little more complicated. Okay? So 30, 60, 90, hence the name, the angles in the triangle are 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Alright, we talked about this last week on Thursday, that for example, like the longest side is across from the largest angle, right? We talked about that last week. Longest side is across from the largest angle. So the same is true for the shortest, okay? The shortest side is across from the smallest angle, okay? So the smallest angle is 30 degrees. What name the side for me using two letters that's across from the 30-degree angle? CV, okay? That's the smallest side. It's across from the smallest angle, okay? That smallest side is always, so the side that is across from the 30 degrees is always S. Okay? The side across from the smallest angle, so the side across from the 30 degrees is always S. Okay? The side across from the 60-degree angle, so your other leg, is S times the square root of 3. So your other leg is S times the square root of 3. And then your hypotenuse is 2 times S, or 2S. Okay, so your shortest side is S, And that S is always across from the 30-degree angle. The other leg is S times the square root of 3, and your hypotenuse is 2S. Okay? You must know these. You must. Okay? You need to know them by heart. Alright? You've got to know them for your test. Otherwise, you can't do these problems. Okay? So for a 45, 45, 90, your two legs are S, your hypotenuse is S times the square root of 2. For a 30, 60, 90, your shortest leg, so the leg across from the 30-degree angle is S. Your other leg is S times the square root of 3. Your hypotenuse is 2S. Okay? You must know those. Alright? Let's do some examples. Alright, so for these first few examples, we're just labeling the missing sides. Okay? Alright, I'm about to ask you a really obvious question, but hopefully we got it right. This first problem. Is this triangle a 45, 45, 90 or a 30, 60, 90 triangle? 45, 45, 90. Okay? This 7 that I'm given, is it a leg or a hypotenuse? Leg. Okay? Your legs in a 45, 45, 90 triangle are labeled as? They're congruent. What are they labeled as?
S.
S. Okay, so that means S is 7. Okay? Which other side, name it for me, is going to be 7? XC, that's my other leg. Okay? So this is also S, which is 7. Okay? Your hypotenuse is labeled as what?
Square root of 2.
S square root of 2. Okay? S is 7 times square root of 2. You're just going to leave it as that. 7 square root of 2. That's it. Yes.
And you know the calculator was one it's
Yeah.
very thin.
I'll get it for you. Okay, here we go. One thing I want to emphasize with this lesson is if you don't know your ratios, it gets really confusing. Okay, so you don't, what I mean by that is if you don't know these pictures. Okay, so go back and look at the picture, and if you have questions, please, please, please stop me. Okay? Because if you're getting confused by the picture, then you're not going to be able to do this. Okay? And we all good on the first one. So your hypotenuse is always S times the square root of 2. We said S was 7. 7 times the square root of 2, that doesn't reduce to anything. Leave it as is. Alright? Number 2. Once again, I'm going to ask the obvious. 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90?
30, 60, 90.
30, 60, 90. Good. Okay. 30, 60, 90s get a little more complicated. Okay, I'm given that this, first of all, is this a leg or a hypotenuse? A leg. Okay? So I know it's either going to be S or S times the square root of 3. I got to figure out which one it is. Okay? Is it across from the 30-degree angle or the 60-degree angle? 30. Okay, it's across from the 30-degree angle. Go back and look at the picture. For across from the 30-degree angle, is that leg S or S times the square root of 3? S. Okay? Across from the 30-degree angle is S. Okay? So that means 6 is S. Okay? Name the other side for me that's going to be the other leg. S times the square root of 3.
Maybe it was a P or P.
S square root of 3.
Oh, that's square root of 3. That's PQ.
PQ, there you go. PQ, that's your other leg. Okay? If S is 6, then S square root of 3 is just 6 square root of 3. And then, Aiden, remind me what the hypotenuse is?
2S.
2S. Okay, so 2 times S, so 2 times 6, which is what? 12. So your hypotenuse is 12. Your other leg is 6 square root of 3. You've got to look back at the picture. Okay. Alright, yes, Ben.
Do we have to show where?
You're saying like 2 times 6?
Yeah.
No.
Or like.
You'll see with some of the others we do a little later that a little more work is required, but even then, but like I always tell y'all, if you don't show me any work and it's wrong, I can't help it. So, take that as your wish. Other questions? All right, with those around you, I would like you to try 3 and 4.
Oh, that's. Oh, 4?
And then for the 45, 45, we have like 2, what is that?
Okay, you're given 9 square root of 3. What angle is that across?
S square root of 2.
60, okay. Look up here.
Square root.
What is the side label as?
Oh,
That is across.
60 degrees. 12, so
Across from the 60.
and then 12 square root of 2.
Where's the 60 degree? Which side? Like the opposite of it. Yes. Okay, so that is this. 9 square root of 3, S square root of 3. So that is S square root of 3. What is S?
I know, they drew.
S times square root of 3.
It was raining and it's coming.
What is in the spot where S is?
It rained it was short, raining and short.
9. Okay, so S is 9. And then, yes, yes.
Do you know, sure? Pretty sure.
Alright, number 3.
So far.
Number 3. Y'all aren't paying attention. Y'all are talking. Okay? Y'all are talking too much. Eddie, you two. Y'all are both talking too much. I will move y'all. Then hush. Stop. Hush. Please. Okay. So number 3. This 9 square root of 3. Which angle is it across from? 60. 60. Okay. Go back and look at your picture. What is the side labeled as that's across from the 60 degree angle?
S square root of 3.
S square root of 3. Okay, so that means 9 square root of 3 is S square root of 3. Okay, name the side for me that is S.
UV.
UV, okay, the side across from the 30 degree angle. And that means my hypotenuse is 2S. Okay? Don't say it, Aiden. But if this is S square root of 3, what does that make S? 9. Good, 9. And then 2S, so 2 times 9 is what? 18. Good. Okay, one thing I'll mention though is you've got to look at the angles. Okay, you'll see in just a few minutes. Just because there's a square root of 3 right here does not mean that's S square root of 3. Okay, it's S square root of 3 because it's across from the 60 degree angle. Okay, so you'll see in just a minute, you can't just say, oh, there's a square root of 3 right there, that's S square root of 3. No. You can say it's S square root of 3 because it's across from the 60 degree angle. Okay? So, you'll see that in just a few minutes. Be extra careful with that. Alright, and then for number 4, I am given the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90. What's the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90 labeled as? S square root of 2. Okay, your legs are labeled as what? S. So if my hypotenuse is 12 square root of 2, what does that make S? 12. Good. And once again, just like I said for the others, just because it's a square root of 2 here does not mean that that's my hypotenuse. Okay, it's my hypotenuse because it's across from the 90-degree angle. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're working. Just because it's a square root of 3 here does not mean it's S square root of 3. It is in this case, but it may not always be. Okay? Alright, there are questions on those four before we challenge things just a smidge. You've got to ask questions if you're not understanding, okay? But you've got to know these pictures. Alright. Okay, for these problems, we're once again just asked to find the missing sides. Okay, so for number 1, I'm giving a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, let's look. I'm giving 28 for, is that a leg or a hypotenuse? It's a leg. Okay, which angle is it across from? 60. Look at your picture at the top. The side that is across from 60 degrees is labeled as what?
S square root of 3.
S square root of 3. Thank you. Okay, so this is exactly what I was talking about. There's S square root of 3 there. But that side is S square root of 3 because it's across from the 60. Okay?
Well, S is 25.
Not entirely, no. Okay, we'll get there in just a second. Which side is going to be labeled as S?
BC.
BC, or CB, sure. And then my hypotenuse is what? 2S. Okay, so I have S squared root of 3. I need to figure out what the heck S is. Okay, we're going to set it up as an equation. S squared root of 3 equals 28. That's exactly what I just wrote right here. Just flipped it. Doesn't matter. You can write it that way too. I don't care. Okay? I'm trying to figure out what S is. So essentially what I'm trying to do in this equation is get S all by itself. Okay? What is the operation happening here between the S and the square root of 3? Multiplication. S times the square root of 3. Good. I need to divide both sides by the square root of 3. I'm trying to get S all by itself. Just a one-step equation. Okay? This is where your calculator comes in handy. You're going to get a nasty fraction. Okay? Say 28 divided by the square root of 3. Divided by the square root of 3.
Are we doing fraction or the
Fraction. Leave it as fraction. Should be something gross.
28 square root of 3 over 3?
Yep. Is that what you got?
Yeah.
Okay, if you do not get that, I need to know. Okay. Alright, what's happening here is a process called rationalizing. You'll learn more about that in Algebra 2. But essentially what's happening here is you can't have a square root in the denominator. So it's doing this process to get it out of the denominator, but we're just going to use our calculator. Why not? Yes, no.
How do you do it in the calculator?
28 divided by the square root of 3. I'm going to give it to you as a decimal. Is that what happened?
You say,
Uh-huh. Just the owner. Okay.
oh,
Okay, so that nasty thing is S. Okay, we're leaving it as a fraction. We're not changing it to a decimal. Okay, so that's S. Now I need 2S. So I'm going to take that nasty thing and multiply it by 2. Okay, you do not have to type that whole thing out again. Give me just a second. Okay, so simply, instead of typing all that out again, just hit multiply by. Hopefully some of y'all will figure this out by now. But just hit multiply, and then it's going to take your answer and multiply it by 2. That way you don't have to type all that out again. And for 2S, you should get 56 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, I want you to make sure you're getting that in your calculator, okay? Because obviously you can't do this without it. Do what? So I took this value and simply just multiplied it by 2. Okay, because clearly, I'm not teaching you the process right now of how to do that by hand. You'll learn about that in Algebra 2. So I need to make sure that you can get it in the calculator, because otherwise you can't do it. Alright, all good? So like I said, just because there's no square root of 3 right here doesn't mean it's s squared root of 3. It is in this case because it's across from the 60-degree angle. So in these examples, you've got to look at your picture and the whole across from the angle thing, okay? Questions? Alright, number 2. Alright, I'm giving it 45, 45, 90. Alright, am I giving a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse, okay? The hypotenuse for a 45, 45, 90 is labeled as what? S squared root of 2. Okay, so just like that last example, I need S. Okay, my other legs are labeled as what? S, because it's 45, 45, 90. So just like that last problem, I need S all by itself. The operation happening here is multiplication. So to get S all by itself, I need to divide. And I don't think you should get an after fraction. Alright, what is S? 14 divided by the square root of 2 is?
7 square root of 2.
7 square root of 2, very good. So both of your legs are 7 square root of 2. Good. All good? Alright, let's do number 3.
Wait, so that's the answer, you just have to label it.
Yep,
So there's no like just answer you search, there's just label.
essentially, yeah. I mean, you could circle this if you wanted to, but those are your answers. Yeah. Alright. Number 3. Okay. I have a 30, 60, 90, right? Okay, sometimes in your picture, it's not going to label one of the angles, but if you know that one of them's 60 and the other one's 90, the other one's gotta be 30, right? Okay, so this angle's 30 degrees. Label it if you want to. You don't have to. Okay? Am I given a leg or a hypotenuse? What's the 18? That's a hypotenuse. Okay, that's what I'm given. Okay? So the hypotenuse for a 30, 60, 90 is labeled as what?
S squared root of
30, 60, 90.
2. S squared root of 2.
S squared, or,
3.
yeah, I'm confusing. 30, 60, 90. The hypotenuse.
S squared root of 3.
No.
2S.
2S. Look at the right picture. 30, 60, 90, it is 2S. Okay, look at the right picture. 2S. Okay, which side is going to be S? ED, the one across from 30 degrees. Which means this is S squared root of 3. But obviously we need to figure out what S is first. Okay, so I have an equation I can work with. 18 is equal to 2S. What's S then? 9. Divide both sides by 2. So S is 9. So side ED is 9. What does that make X then?
9 square root of 3.
9 square root of 3, exactly. 9 square root of 3. No math I really need to do there, just plug in S. Hold on, we may not be done. Hold on. I've got extra problems we can do. Hold on. What'd you purchase? Okay, we We've done this before, but it's been a while. I want everyone to close their eyes for me. Please, everyone close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, thumbs up if you're good, thumb in the middle if you're so-so, thumb down if you're not feeling good. Thumbs up if you feel good, thumbs down if you feel bad, thumb in the middle if you feel so-so.
I think good.
Yeah, but I'm blessed. Exactly, but I'm blessed. Okay, you can put your thumbs down and close your eyes. Or open your eyes, I'm sorry. Thank you for your honesty. Okay, I've got 4 extra problems we can do. Okay, what I want to do is do at least 2 of them. These aren't going to take long, I promise. You see how long it took to do this? Okay, this isn't going to take long. Okay, we'll do 2 of them, and then we'll see how you're feeling after that. And if we still aren't feeling that great, we'll do 2 more. Okay, that's my plan. It's not going to take long, I promise. Alright, flip to the back for me, draw this picture. And just kind of look up here when you've drawn the picture, that way I know I can move on. Alright. 30, 60, 90, right? Yes? Yes, 30, 60, 90. Okay, so that means this angle, if you need to label it, is 60 degrees. You don't have to. But if you need to, that angle is 60 degrees. Okay? I'm given that one of my sides, which this side I'm given leg or hypotenuse, leg. Okay, I'm given that that leg is 10 squared or 3 over 3, that mess. Okay? Is that, or let me ask you this, what angle is it across from? 30. Look at your picture. How do you label the leg across from 30 degrees? So look at the picture if you don't know. Look at the picture, don't guess. Oh, S. Okay? Across from 30 degrees is S. Okay? What does that mean Y is going to be labeled as the other leg? S squared of 3. And X, my hypotenuse, 2S. Okay, so S is 10 squared of 3 over 3. Okay? Now I need to figure out everything else. Alright, let's just start with the other leg. So what this is saying is I need to take S and multiply all of S by the square root of 3. So I'm going to take all of S and multiply it by the square root of 3. Here's how I want you to do that in your calculator, because it can get a little messy. Okay? First thing I want you to do is type in the numerator, hit enter. So 10 square root of 3, enter. Type in the numerator, hit enter. Okay, after that I want you to divide your numerator by 3, and you should get this. Okay, so now you have your fraction. Okay, after that, just like we did previously, you're just going to go ahead and hit multiply, and multiply it by the square root of 3. What do we get? 10. Did you not get 10? Oh, multiply by square root of 3. Yeah, multiply by square root of 3. Okay, so you should get 10. So that's Y. 10. Anyone else not get that?
Oh, you just put Y or S?
That's for Y. That's S squared of 3. Okay? Now I need to multiply S by 2. So 2x is not 20. Okay? Because that would be multiplying S squared of 3 by 2. I need to multiply S by 2. Okay? So what you can do is scroll back up to where you got that fraction, this, and highlight over it, and then hit enter, and it'll give it right back to you. That way you don't have to go through typing all that again. Okay? And then multiply that by 2. And you're going to get a fraction.
2.
Multiply by 2. Because it's 2s. So, all of this again. Not 3.
Why do you type hard down?
That's what I'm saying. So scroll up to where we got that, and then just hit enter.
I heard clear something.
Oh, okay, yeah, if you clear that, that's a problem. Okay. Type your numerator, hit enter, and then divide it by 3. Okay, so for 2s, you should get this. This. Yeah, that's 2s. Okay, so that's your hypotenuse, or x. 20 square root of 3 over 3. All good? And just be extra careful. You gotta use your calculator correctly. Alright. Now I want you to draw this picture now. Once again, just look up here when you got it drawn. That way I know it's good. Alright. That 4 squared is 6. First of all, this is 45, 45, 90, yes? Okay. That 4 squared is 6. Leg or hypotenuse?
Leg.
Leg. Okay. The legs of a 45, 45, 90 are labeled as what?
I swear.
Look at your picture. The legs. S. Okay, your hypotenuse thing is what?
I swear.
There you go. Okay, don't guess, okay? Don't guess. Okay? So both of your legs are S. So that means Y is going to be what? 4 squared is 6. Okay? Your legs are the same. Okay? Now for your hypotenuse, I need to take that entire thing, take all of S, and multiply it by the square root of 2. Okay, so in your calculator, I want you to type it in just like this. Okay, open a parentheses. 4 square root of 6. Okay, before you close your parentheses, you need to be outside the square root, so simply just arrow over to the right. Then close the parentheses, and then you can multiply that entire thing by the square root of 2. So open a parentheses, type in 4 times the square root of 6, get out of the square root before you close your parentheses, then multiply it by the square root of 2. If you don't close outside the square root, it's going to give you an error. So what do you get? 8 square root of 3. If you did not get that, I need to know. That's what I'm saying. You need to be outside the square root before you close your parentheses. Now, and then multiply by square root. There you go. So that's x. 8 square root of 3. Alright. Questions, comments, concerns? Would we benefit for 2 extra problems, or would you rather start your homework? Homework? It is on paper. Okay, your homework is on paper. It is 10 problems. Okay, show work. Since it's on paper, it's due tomorrow. And we're having, hopefully, if we have time, we'll have a quiz at the end of class tomorrow on what we talked about on Thursday and today. So you need to know your pictures. Okay, so take 15 minutes tonight, if that, and study a little bit, okay? Alright, 10 questions. Once you're done, show it to me. And then, if you were out last week, you need to play catch up. And if for some reason you were here and you didn't finish the Delta Math for homework, you've got time to finish that as well, okay? You've got way too much time. You should have plenty of time to finish your homework. And this is due tomorrow when you walk in, okay?